In order to create an immersive atmosphere for the audience, set designers need to pay close attention to detail when deciding on what to put in front of our eyes. This involves the creation of convincing backgrounds and scenery whilst keeping within the theme. Well-designed sets allow the scene to flow and contribute to the narrative as well as creating an experience the audience feel a part of. Unfortunately, many films fail to achieve this, which in turn negatively impacts on the final result. Straight away the scene comes across as poorly made. The rocks appear plastic and fake, and the background looks unrealistic, as though someone has painted it on a sheet of cloth. This results in the set looking cheaply made and prevents the audience from feeling invested. The animals' movements appear robotic, as shown here. Even the ones covered in fur or feathers seem like stuffed animals. They look more like museum replica models or children's toys rather than real wild animals that live in the desert. A popular film known for its poor quality, The Room uses unconvincing acting alongside a clumsily constructed set to create an underwhelming film that comes across more as a comedic piece rather than a serious film as intended, which ultimately disconnects the audience. The setting design is unrealistic for a rooftop. It looks low budget and makes the audience feel detached. The wall looks as though it's painted on cardboard due to its lack of detail and definition. Characters appear photoshopped into the scene due to a blurry background. The distinction between the wall and skyline is unclear. Rather than looking as it should, the entire background in this shot looks blended together like a painting, made worse by a feathered wall edge. There is an obvious green screen backdrop with foggy silhouettes instead of real buildings, making the scene look more like an amateur dramatics play. The director chose to use a tin shed as the rooftop entrance and exit rather than a real roof of which he had access to. Unfortunately, the attempt failed to make it look real due to the inadequate sizing and simple aesthetics. There is nowhere for the characters to go and no possible way for a staircase to fit in the shed to allow the characters to be able to go downstairs. My first time watching this film, the most prominent aspect I noted was the overuse of a poorly edited green screen. The helicopter is obviously photoshopped onto various photographs in an attempt to mimic a busy surrounding environment. Using star-shaped effects to symbolize the rapid firing of bullets makes it clear to the audience that the scenario is not real, reinforced by the explosion effect pasted onto another photograph. The use of CGI within this scene is a good example of the overall standard of the film. A further example of mediocre special effects is the attempt to mimic a different spray of ammo than what was used in a previous scene to perhaps imply that a different variety of weapon was being used. Regrettably, the result is simply an additional basic animation layered on top of the image. The name on the side of the helicopter is in situ while the blurry vehicle is shaking around, exposing that the name has been pasted on the side. A low-quality animation and the character has been photoshopped into it. In this clip, the helicopter is not only completely different from the one portrayed in its last appearance, it is also a clip that has yet another clumsily edited explosion with no visible bomb having been discharged. The only evidence of the narrative is within the incoherent script. Altogether, these films demonstrate an amateurish level of experience in production through a lazy use of resources, evidenced by what appear to be multiple recycled clips thrown together with low-quality modification. Each of these films neglects multiple aspects of what is needed for a successful set. In this image, I have drawn a basic film set sketch that contains everything needed for creating an immersive atmosphere. The best way to create a convincing background is either through filming in a real location such as a public place, or using a green screen. For the latter, the editing needs to be done well enough to blend the picture into the surroundings with a clear image that proportionally and realistically fits within the scene. Props help to set the scene, and it is common for a story to revolve around a specific one, so it is important they are well designed. Production designers need to aim to visually depict to the audience what the intended atmosphere is through the use of appropriate props and set decor. It can aid with the backstory of a character, moving the scene along and averting the need for verbal explanation, promoting the idea of showing rather than telling. In films, various forms of lighting can be used, as well as lighting that makes up the scenery. There are two main types used: three-point lighting, and a lighting grid. These help focus the light, creating a spotlight effect on the selected area. Lighting changes the way a set is perceived. Whilst natural light is preferable due to its sustainability and known health benefits, it's not always accessible. Artificial lighting is used to mimic natural light, when it's unavailable. In architecture and film, it not only illuminates both interiors and exteriors, but can be used to transform spaces into various environments, fictional or realistic. Camera angles depict how you perceive a scene. making you focus on a particular feature. Many symbolize different meanings, such as a low-angle shot signifying dominance or power. A scene that is shot in a close-up may cut out valuable visuals that would have been revealed in a wider shot. This ultimately changes what information is portrayed to the audience, potentially altering aspects of the narrative. This concept further applies when a shot that avoids showing the entire image is specifically chosen to encourage the audience to figure out hidden parts of the narrative themselves. Choosing the most suitable angle is important as it can completely alter the story and how we may think of characters. Color is one of the foundations of design. It not only improves the aesthetic but adds context to the setting. Color theory suggests that all colors can be symbolic of an emotion or concept which can be used in deciding the color scheme of a set. For example, the use of purple could represent wealth and wisdom. These should be chosen contingent on the narrative or intended atmosphere and may sometimes be based on a character's personality or the surrounding environment. This theory is my reason for using red to highlight aspects of the films due to it being indicative of importance. Films that efficiently utilize the factors identified build stronger atmospheres for the audience to connect with. The following are examples of films that have done so. The Grand Budapest Hotel is known for its symmetry and clever use of angles. A shot may make the audience feel as though they are sitting at a table with the protagonists, as though they are having a face-to-face conversation, or about to walk up the staircase to the concierge desk as shown here. A high or low angle shot representing superiority or inferiority accordingly creates a sense of tension whilst implying a character's status. The camera angles symbolize height and add depth to the scenes by forcing the audience to experience it firsthand, immersing them into the scene. Color transforms the set from an ordinary building to the luxurious hotel we see on screen just by cleverly using the color red and focused warm lighting to represent the hotel's important role and opulence. The Hunger Games uses a similar thought when depicting the divide between the capital and the districts in terms of wealth through the use of an establishing shot with bright colors to represent the wealth of the capital and a long shot with clearly run-down buildings and dull colors to portray District 12 as poor. This is evidenced further through the characters themselves. Those from the districts wear simple outfits and hairstyles with muted color clothing which is shown to be old and worn most of the time. On the other hand, those from the capital wear bright-colored, extravagant clothing with excessive accessories and exaggerated hairstyles in order to show off their wealth. Titanic, Avatar, the Grand Budapest Hotel, and the Hunger Games. They all take full advantage of using CGI in the making of their films to create a realistic setting. While films such as Titanic uses it to adapt our existing world, the Hunger Games uses it to create a dystopian world, and succeeds in making a convincing piece. For example, in this scene, the entire audience is copied through the use of a green screen to reduce the amount of actors needed while making it appear as though the audience never ends. Avatar goes a step further and creates an entirely new environment through the use of green screens and motion capture as shown here. As technology continues to advance and society's desire for new ideas to entertain us escalates, it is vital that attention to detail is prioritized in order to attract an audience and keep them invested and feeling immersed in their atmosphere.